Welcome to the Impactful Engineer Project. I'm Steve Maxey, and with my co-host and brother Jake, we are here to bring you guidance, fresh ideas, and the tools to help you become an impactful engineer. Welcome to the Impactful Engineer. Our mission is to help you grow your engineering career and inspire you to pursue your full potential as not only an engineering professional, but as a member of your greater community. I'm Steve Maxey, and I'm a mechanical engineering manager in new product development for Klein Tools, and I'm here with my brother Jake, who is a professional electrical engineer for the MEP firm Hallam ICS. How you doing, Jacob?
Doing pretty good, man. It's a good day. Good end of the week. Lots of fun stuff. It was a lighter week than last week as far as just the schedule, moving around, going to new places, deliverables, all that stuff. So it was a good time to keep the needle moving on that important stuff that is not quite so urgent. Yeah. So it's a good time to catch up on that stuff.
Yeah. No, well, I guess good.
I guess not catch up, just keep doing it.
No, I understand.
But
yeah. Yeah, we're still in the half the team is going overtime because the other half of the team is brand new. So we're still getting them up to speed, and doing some trainings and all that good stuff, which is super fun. And it's super great that the two new guys are really kicking ass and growing. But it's a little extra burden on the other three, right? Because they have to take up the skills gap.
Yeah. Been there.
Yep.
Done that.
I think everyone has to handle that a few times in their career.
Yeah.
It's been especially challenging this time because it's not just one new engineer this go around, it's two. So it's, 20% or, right? But anyways, I can't do math. 40% of the team is brand new. And so that's a big skills gap to get over. But other than that, it's been great. It hasn't been an overly intense week, other than getting the new guys up to speed. As far as like standard workflow, it's been pretty smooth, which is nice.
Yep.
So lots of time for kids. Went to a trunk or treat this week.
Yeah. Those are fun.
Oh, yeah. So going to Pumpkin Patch this weekend. So that will be good.
Yep. Block party this weekend.
Oh, yeah?
Yep. Like a middle school dance, or like we're in the middle school dance era now. So plans tonight and sleepovers and all sorts of stuff. And it'll be fun.
Heck yeah.
I was going to say earlier, it's like a different energy level when you're working on stuff that's not just a deadline-driven chaos, back against the wall kind of week, finishing. It's it takes just like a different approach. The energy's a little less and will drop off if you're not careful, So just got to find those ways to keep the energy going. But working on detailed work instructions and things that you can hand off to, or that I can hand off to new co-ops that come in. It's going to drastically improve their ability to get up to speed. Did a lot of that this week. Working on quarterly review presentation on a certain aspect. I am on core values, this time, just to kind of highlight those and make sure that they're top of mind and share my thoughts. And so put that presentation together. And then, it's important stuff. Called a few clients, make sure they're doing all right. We have a new quality assurance program, lining that up. Getting FaceTime with the people that you should be getting FaceTime with too. It's really nice to be able to do that. Fall right back on it when there's not a deadline.
Yeah.
So just to have it there and do it frequently. So it's good.
Heck yeah. So I got a good topic for you today.
Nice.
That we can chat about. But before we get into that, a little housekeeping, right? So for any new listeners listening, obviously, most common episode type is Jake and I sitting here like today, presenting a topic where we introduce the why and how around it and give some tips to inspire some action. Occasionally, we will have quick solo episodes that we just get right into it. And it's more like a small lesson, or I wouldn't say a rant, but just, it's a thought has entered our mind and we just got to get off our chest. So they're usually a little heated sometimes controversial. It's a good time. So I really encourage anyone to dive into those and keep an open mind. And then finally, we about once a month, and I think actually a little more frequently soon, right, is we'll bring on a formal guest, and they are typically an expert in a particular field. and they'll share their perspective, mindset, and we'll get around to some actionable tips around their area of genius that you can take with you and kick some ass with. So,
nice.
So yeah, with that housekeeping, we're through it. So let's get into this topic. Let's see. Everyone knows, as you know, when you have kids, that as a parent, you have a lot of influence on their upbringing and what kind of person they'll become. But everyone also knows that later in life, as a kid, like before they become adults, their greatest influence is usually through their friends, and that's no different than engineers. So a highly effective manager can make a really large impact, but I think that's only half the equation, and the other half is the peer engineers that are around them. And so that's what I want to talk about today is how can you influence the peers around you as an individual contributor engineer. So let's get into that. We have a little bit of a framework that we want to go over, and number one is to set a high standard for yourself. That goes back to the old adage of leading by example. So hold high standards of yourself and operate at a high level, and that will influence those around you. So, Jacob, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think it's a good place to start. And I think I wanted to make one comment, though, too, that we will talk about how you yourself can be that influence amongst your peers, but also how to tap into the influence and ability to improve the team and yourself from your peers. Grab that from your peers as well. So you can cultivate that, right? But yes, setting a high standard for yourself is kind of the prerequisite for the rest of this to work. If you're not seen as someone that is a high performer, or at least is trying to continually learn and improve, progress, and up your game, so to speak, then the rest of this kind of falls apart, because the rest of this is going to include participation from your peers. And if they, quite frankly, don't see you as worth the time, because everyone's time's crunched, and when you make time for something, you're giving something else up. And just to be blunt, in my opinion, okay, whether you like this answer or not, I'm big on what is, not what ought to be. And what is, most of the time, if you're not someone that can benefit somebody else in that exchange, the exchange most likely won't happen. Or it will, and then quickly they figure out that it's a waste of time, and then it won't happen. The energy around it, the desire to want to get back with you and keep close tabs and frequently meet with you will fade off if you don't bring something to the table. So you can bring that by, quote unquote, setting a high standard for yourself, whatever that means to you. To us, it's continually improving, having those markers that we want to hit, goals, learning, progressing through our career, stuff like that. So yeah, those are my thoughts.
And I think an important element to add to that is being consistent in being a high performer, or setting those high expectations of yourself, right? So it's one thing to operate with high efficiency, be effective for a short period of time, and then you plummet, and now you're kind of a piece of shit, right? You're not really operating very well.
Yeah, I get what you said.
Yeah, and then go back up when you're inspired to do great things, and then you get bored, and then you suck, right? You don't want to operate like that, because then people aren't going to take you seriously, even if you are effective in short spurts, right? So you need to be consistently operating at a high level. So I think that's really important to remember.
Yeah, in this episode, we're just going to be this is just number one of the framework.
Yes.
How to do that? I mean, a couple good points there. How to do that? There's a lot to that. We're glazing right over that. Number one is you need to be in that seat or that perception of being a high performer, I guess.
Yeah. And if you want to learn more, listen to the rest of the podcast.
Sure. Yeah. I think that will give you a general idea of how to be a high performer.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Step one.
Right. Yeah. So step one.
Step one, do stuff and be, and contribute to work. Don't be the person that shows up just to sign in and sign out and take their paycheck.
Yeah, exactly. So step two is soliciting feedback from your peers. Yes. Notice how we didn't say give feedback, right?
Very intentional.
Exactly. In order to build trust with your peers, you need to be able to solicit feedback and then take action on that feedback. and you need to at least listen to it. So if it's shitty feedback, right? They say that, oh, you really suck at this one thing, but you're actually really good at it. Like, and it's well established that you are, you don't just think you are. Then you need to be understanding when you're listening to that feedback
and not react to it.
Exactly. Don't react to it. But more often than not, there's going to be a glimmer of truth in all the feedback that you will receive. And so taking action to address all feedback is very important to build that trust with your peers.
Yep. Solicit it, acknowledge it, do not react to it. Do something with it. There's always something to do with it. And in your example, Steve, like you are established and good at this thing and they're giving you feedback. That's a perception problem, or it's a misunderstanding problem, or it's an inexperience problem. Whatever it is, it's driving that feedback. Figure out why the feedback is what it is, and then take action to improve that. Even if you're just improving the perception or giving the person that has given you that feedback the context or the explanation or the training around what will actually improve that perception. They might just not even know what it means that they're saying, really. They could be off a little bit, right? So the worst thing you can do, and with engineers, like this is the hardest thing in the world, is to receive feedback and then go, thank you for that feedback. Here's what I think you said, and I want to make sure I understand the feedback.
Yep.
And then acknowledge it and then actually take action on it, right? Instead of what most of the time happens is defensiveness, but you don't see me working all the time, so how do you know? Mm-hmm. You've only seen me in this one little window, blah, 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 blah. All this stuff. I'm great at it. You don't know what you're talking about. And even if you don't express that, you're feeling that inside, right? They don't know what they're talking about. We're asking you to kind of look past all that and allow yourself to be a part of this feedback loop and remove your emotion from it and stop reacting to things and just take it for what it is and see what good you can drive from it, because you'll see as you move throughout your career and as we go through the next steps here, what the benefits will be if you allow that to happen. And some of it has nothing to do with the feedback that you actually get, the actual words used. Mm-hmm. So let's look beyond this immediate reactiveness. I want to hit on that hard because I've done it too. I've been part of that, and it's so hard. It's not naturally how we're wired, and you've got to overcome it. And so that's why it's important to do that.
That's something I caught out of there that I wanted to hit on a little bit is you want to intentionally listen to the feedback that they're giving you, and then while you're repeating it back to them, that is showing them that you did hear them and you did understand. And if there is a disconnect between what you're repeating and then what they originally said, you can add or gain clarity in that moment and alignment on that feedback so they feel good that you understood them. And then now you can take action and they will see that and be like, oh, wow, I gave some pretty critical feedback and Jake is kicking ass on that area, and he made some changes and is being intentional about those changes, and that is going to be massive for building trust with your peers.
Absolutely. And even if you have to go so far as identifying why the perception is the way it is and then addressing that specifically so that you don't even learn a new skill or change a damn thing, you're just creating the opportunity for the person that gave you the feedback to see you in the right light. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden their feedback changes. You haven't done anything different than you have in the last 10 years because you're a pro at what they give you feedback on, but you've identified how to show them, right, and how they can perceive you differently. There's some nugget of truth in there. You're doing something to make this person think that to solicit that feedback. So, all right, moving on.
Yeah, excellent. So after that trust is built and you've shown that you can take feedback, now is when you can observe your peers and find areas where you can provide feedback back to them. And because of that established trust, they will also be able to listen to the feedback and start taking action. Or you'll be able to gain their perspective and understand why they made certain decisions, right? Because it could be something you're not seeing, and it could be the right path that they took, and now you'll understand that. So you'll be able to give feedback, and now it's a two-way street.
And that's what's great about peer-to-peer feedback, is you absolutely are allowed to do that. Provide all the context in the world. There's varying degrees to every decision you make. Like leadership, engineering career, technical, aptitude, everything has varying degrees and dichotomies to be managed.
Yeah.
Right? And so being able to share that with each other is awesome. And there are different paths for different situations at different times. And that's what's great about the peer-to-peer feedback. That's why we think that it is the most valuable feedback and will move the needle the furthest on your career is as you move up and these levels and your peers change, that you're all giving each other feedback outside of the boss realm.
Yeah, I was just going to say, take a step back from what we're saying and ask yourself, what would you take action on more intentionally, or how serious would you take feedback from your boss versus your favorite coworker? If your favorite peer came to you and gave you some critical feedback, would you take a lot more weight to that than your boss, who you say you only talk to your boss twice a week, and you work with this peer every day for 6 hours a day? Who are you going to take more weight from that feedback? So that's what we're trying to communicate here is use that to the benefit of the entire organization.
That's right.
So, and that leads into our last step here, which is once you create that system of you being able to provide and receive and take action on feedback holistically in the team, now you can start sharing wins and sharing lessons learned, and take action and hold each other accountable by reviewing these frequently, daily, weekly, doesn't matter. So, and that will establish a culture within the team. And over time, that culture expands throughout the entire organization.
Hey, my fellow impactful engineers. If there's one thing that you could do to help out this community, it's to keep listening to the podcast, but also that if you found value in it, to share it with one person, give us a 5-star review, or even leave a text review. It'll only take a few seconds of your time. Find that person that you think could enjoy some of this or learn from it, and pass on the good word. Now back to the show.
Yeah, this goes beyond just you trying to excel in your career. If you are developing these relationships with your peers, they then get to take that experience to other parts of the organization. And they get to oh, this is how you do that. When someone wants to have a lessons learned or a feedback session, they go, oh, I know how feedback sessions go, right? I've been practicing these a lot. I have tons of things to contribute to this. And they won't be seen because I feel like people see feedback sessions as a negative. And mm-hmm. I get it, because a lot of them can be handled very poorly. The setup, the words used, the tonality, the expressions on your face, we're all people. It all comes down to all those little tiny things that people do that can be misread and taken wrong, by having these frequent feedback sessions and breaking down those barriers and getting to know each other. That's going to increase the effectiveness of feedback sessions and actually have it turn into something that is positive for the organization, that can actually be trained. Something can come from these feedback sessions that is tangible, that is a work instruction, or that is something that's brought into the normal operating procedures of the next job, and it's from the top down, from the bottom up, whatever. It can be actually distilled into training, and then you can start having people hold each other accountable, which accountability is one of those words that people are oh, accountable, and they feel all there's nothing emotional about accountability. Accountability is simply being able to give each other feedback and hold each other to a certain result. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all accountability is.
Yeah. And it's accountability is not just the critical feedback, but it's the positive, congratulatory type feedback as well, right? Giving praise is setting the bar of where that expectations are, right? You are saying, hey, this is where the bar is or above, right? This is great. And then when you're giving the constructive feedback, that's hey, you're a little bit below the bar. So that's how you zero in on where that level of expectations is. It's not just, KPIs and just data driven goals, right? It's it's a continuous feedback loop over time from person to person that's going to set that cultural set of standards.
Yeah. And then just be a part of it. Think how you can contribute to that. If someone's going to give praise, there's a reason the praise is being given, because it was seen as a positive. And most likely that positive is contributing to the strategic goals of the company and what everybody's striving for. So the accountability is built into that. So praise given, we're saying you did something, right? that is contributing to the overall goal of the company or within the team, or it's representing a core value or whatever. So you want to reinforce it. And that's what praise does. And then critical feedback, right? Or what people say is, opportunities for improvement, or I don't know, whatever else you want to label it as. But that just is going to have some suggested feedback in it as to how to improve. So there's like reinforcing the good, and then there's, hey, I like what you're doing, but this could be done to do better, right? Of course, there's going to be some conversations like that will always happen that are like, hey, they're very blunt, but this is for managers to supervise or managers to direct reports. Mm-hmm. So we're not talking about the sit down where you go, hey, you're here, you got to be here, you're doing these things which are keeping you from getting here. You need to do these things to get there, and it's not been good lately, and we need to turn it around. Like, that's a candid conversation between a boss and a direct report. What do you think, Steve? Do you think that belongs in a peer-to-peer? I don't think so. I think just candid feedback of, I don't know.
I think that it's an obligation for peer-to-peers to be able to point out where there could be improvement, but it's not a formal sit-down discussion. And of course, can't even talk. Of course, the positive side of things, right? I think these kinds of conversations are even more effective when they're in the hallway or when you're just hanging out in someone's cube or, the water cooler so to speak. Those types of conversations are much more effective because it's not a, hey, let's go sit in this office and sit down and have a critical feedback session, right? You're just over at someone's computer and you're talking about a project and you're like, yeah, dude, I really liked how you did this thing. I'm going to try it that way too, because I think it's a better way to do it than I did. But this other thing you were doing, why did you do that? I've seen it work a little better this other way, etc. And you kind of dive into those conversations. I think that's way more effective than any kind of formality.
Interesting. Yeah, I wanted to leave. Well, first I wanted to recap the framework, which we can do. But I kind of wanted to leave a way, like a tactical way for someone to get started on this. And you kind of touched on it. Like, you're not having any formal meeting or calling anything, formally together to discuss on purpose with an agenda and all that stuff was your recommendation, I think. Here's the truth. The way I've had success with this in the past is that I am in a position of some sort of elevated experience or role in the company. So people kind of naturally look up and ask, and then I can take advantage of the ask and get in there and start the feedback loop. I've never just straight up said, hey, I think what I want to do, I heard on Jake and Steve's podcast, that we should be giving each other feedback and like discussing things. We're on the same level or whatever. You think you'd want to get together for like maybe 5-10 minutes a week just to start, to kind of just shoot some ideas around and get that feedback process going? Like, here's what I'm thinking. I've never done that. But do you think that would be an effective way for someone to do that early on in their career, or I guess even later? If there's a new group, you haven't established a relationship yet, but you think feedback is important and you want to start soliciting it from others, maybe you could reach out and say, hey, 5-minute chat. I want to invite you to, give me some feedback. I think it's really important that I receive it. Here's a couple of prompted questions maybe that you've used in the past, Steve, that they can answer. And then you can say, hey, really, truly appreciate the answers to those. And then maybe have some follow-up to that. I don't know. Can they pull a small nugget, run with it?
So when I was an individual contributor, because like you right now, most of my perspective of this is from a manager point of view.
Yeah.
When I was just a design engineer, I would often still give feedback and receive feedback. And it was more along the lines of what I was talking about earlier is, the hallway type chats. I was very open to being suggestive, I guess is the right word, in how to be effective. But at the same time, I was asking a lot of questions to get feedback on myself, right? Not from a point of insecurity, but at a point that I wanted to be great at what I did. I wanted to be faster at design. I wanted to be more effective in analysis, etc. And so I would often solicit feedback from directors to peers. Actually the two best people that elevated my skill sets in CAD design were not engineers at all. They were CAD designers, right? They're guys who all they did was just live in SolidWorks. So of course they're going to be the ones that are going to be experts at this. And so I pulled so much information from them to be more effective myself. And in scenarios like that, I would say, hey, can we sit down for like 30 minutes and I can pick your brain and dive into this and try to learn how you do this. So, I mean, that's a good way to pull in feedback. I think if you are trying to start something new, back to our framework is start with soliciting feedback on yourself, whether it's you're just trying to learn a new skill or you're trying to be better at a process that you're not very good at, etc. I think that's the best way if you want to keep it a little more on the formal side is just say, hey, can I schedule 30 minutes of your time and learn this thing from you or get this feedback from you?
Yeah. So you pull it to something that is actually a working, maybe billable thing that you have to work on and tag people to help you out with it.
Yeah.
To start that face-to-face.
Yeah. And just start building a relationship that way. And then you can ease into the things that are a little bit more, I don't know, touchy is the right word, but
Sure. Yeah. No. So that's actually going to be my recommendation for beginning this process. So I'm not going to say I'd say do whatever works for you. But here's one approach that could work, that could return some high value for you. And that's like not thinking that you need to start this process by identifying it as a feedback process. Just start choosing opportunities to work with your peers as they'll be guiding you through something that's an actual work item so that you can develop that relationship, get that face-to-face time, and you guys can learn how to work with each other. And then you can start interjecting the feedback questions, right?
Yeah.
Like, hey, how was this? What could I have done better on this thing? So I think I'll stand behind the not doing the direct approach. Like, hey, heard this. It's feedback time, and I want to start doing. Probably, depending on the person, you won't get a very good result from that, but you could try. I think it's happened naturally for me throughout my entire career. Is just working on the items that we can help each other with day to day, and then starting to kind of weasel my way into soliciting feedback and then making it something formal. Like, hey, I always get a lot of value out of our sessions when you help me with something. I'd like to turn this into something formal, if that's cool. Almost like a one-on-one, but it's not, right? It's just a get-together that we have. And I'd like to start soliciting feedback, taking action on that, and then circling back and saying, how did we do? And holding each other accountable on it. Would you be agreeable to that? Something like that. Yeah.
And you know the secret to get people to buy into having personal conversations? Take them to lunch.
Bring them food.
Yep. Every engineer on the planet loves a free lunch. So
there you go.
Yeah. Take them to lunch.
Like.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, Jake, you said you wanted to recap the framework.
Yeah. Set a high standard for yourself that you'll stand out as someone that is worth the time, I guess. That's it. I don't know how else to put it. You will increase your likelihood that people will want to help you routinely for long periods of time if you make improvements and you're setting a high standard for yourself within the job. It's just the truth. 2, start soliciting feedback from your peers, like right away. If it's not a normal, like at Hallam, it's a normal part of the process. I don't have to set up these meetings for feedback loops. We just do. We just do. We have debriefs. We have lessons learned on every single project. So that's what I'm trying to say too. I'm glad I remembered to mention that because this is something that's just kind of automatic where I'm working right now.
So it's not everywhere.
It's not everywhere, which probably not. Start soliciting that feedback. It's going to help a lot. It's going to help you and them. So then 3, observe how your peers are working, what they're doing, what they're good at, what they're bad at, all that stuff, so that you can bring something of value to the feedback when you have the opportunity to give it, right? Mm-hmm. And then you can start, number 4, taking action, and with that trust, starting to bring the accountability factor into the conversations to increase the likelihood that you stick with the feedback, that you get good at it, that you overcome whatever the issue was, and that you can move on to some additional feedback. So just giving it and letting it wither away and go out there without any sort of accountability or feedback loop.
It's not going to accomplish anything.
They most often just die out.
Yeah.
The desire, the inspiration, the motivation kind of dies.
I was going to say the commitment to it. Yeah.
Yeah, the commitment dies. And you can do this by praise, sharing wins. Make sure that when you see them do something good that you like, that you tell them that. Mm-hmm. It's a big piece.
Ask them how they did it.
Yeah, how'd you do it? I saw this and it was awesome. And I love that you're doing it. Just wanted to give you some praise. Teams, Slack, message, whatever. And it's got to be close to when they did it, so that they can feel good about it.
24 hours.
24 hours, maybe. If you can do sooner, that's great. It'll fade. So, yeah, and then take it from there, This will ultimately lead to, after 6 months or whatever, you'll be able to just flat out tell each other stuff very candidly and be like, all right, we can skip all the nuancy back and forth and treading on ice around each other, or stepping over it, stepping on eggshells, whatever. It's like, we could just tell each other, just lay it out.
And as someone who operates in a team that is able to just be flat out candid and instantly be able to provide feedback, it is awesome. Like provide and receive, right?
Yep.
If I do something that's a slip, I'll have guys who report to me be like, dude, that was dumb. I was like, yep.
What happened?
Yeah, I know. I was like, well, yeah, I screwed that up. And I love it, man. It's the best being able to go back and forth with that feedback, because we are, as a team, we are all elevating ourselves quickly because of it. So that is the ultimate goal.
And just remember, this is truly how you influence the culture of the company and how you make it spread throughout, is by doing these things. So, Steve, you got anything else?
Nope. I think that's it. So
connect with us on LinkedIn, all that stuff. We're going to lose all the audience right now. It's going to cut out.
They're all jumping off right this second.
Hitting the next button. We've got an email, questions@impactfulengineer.com. Send us stuff. We will reply to you. We will ignore you if it's dumb. Done that before.
Yeah, that's very true.
But yeah.
Yeah, but I think just step one, set a high standard for yourself and lead by example.